Praesians laughed at human tactics. Until they faced our deadly ships and lost the war, the stars glittered coldly on the viewing deck as Commander Mina Park straightened her uniform. Today marked humanity's first official meeting with the Alvarian Empire, an ancient spacefaring civilization that ruled over 30 star systems. Mina fought to keep her expression neutral despite the butterflies in her stomach. "Ready, Commander?" Admiral Sook asked, his weathered face showing none of the anxiety Mina felt. "Yes, sir. Our presentation is prepared." The human delegation stood on the transport pad, materializing moments later in the vast crystalline chamber of the Alvarian High Council. Towering beings with iridescent skin and multiple limbs looked down at them from elevated platforms. Their bodies reflected the light strangely, giving them an almost divine appearance. Supreme Commander Drith, nearly 12 feet tall, stepped forward. His translator clicked as he spoke. "The Alvarian Empire welcomes Earth's representatives. We are amused by your request for diplomatic relations." Mina noted the condescending tone but maintained her composure. Admiral Sook bowed respectfully before beginning his prepared speech about peaceful coexistence and mutual benefits of trade. When it came time for Mina's military presentation, she activated her holographic display showing Earth's defense capabilities. "Our fleet consists of 200 capital ships with another 100 under construction. Our planetary defense grid can—" Laughter erupted across the chamber, a sound like cracking ice. Supreme Commander Drith's upper limbs vibrated with amusement. "You call those ships? Those are toys compared to an Alvarian destroyer. Your weapons would barely scratch our hulls." On the massive central display, images of Earth's most advanced battleship appeared alongside an Alvarian vessel. The size difference was humbling. "Your species has barely mastered basic spaceflight," Drith continued. "Your propulsion technology is primitive. Your weapons are inefficient. Even your communication systems rely on outdated principles." The other council members chittered in agreement, their crystal eyes reflecting nothing but contempt. Admiral Sook maintained his diplomatic tone. "We hope our civilizations can learn from each other. Different approaches often lead to innovation." This only brought another wave of laughter. One counselor spoke up. "The only learning will be your species understanding its proper place in the galaxy." Throughout the remainder of the presentation, the Alvarians barely contained their amusement at human military doctrine. They openly mocked Earth's battle formations, called their strategy predictable, and dismissed their defenses as barely worth the effort to overcome. As the delegation prepared to leave, Supreme Commander Drith approached Mina directly. "Your species will make an interesting footnote in our history. Perhaps we will keep some of you as curiosities when this is over." Back aboard their ship, the delegation's mood was somber. "They're planning to attack," Mina said bluntly once they were safely in hyperspace. "I detected communications during the meeting. They're assembling a battle fleet as we speak." Admiral Sook nodded grimly. "I suspected as much. Did you complete your other mission?" Mina smiled thinly and removed her insignia pin. The tiny device had scanned Alvarian technology throughout the meeting. Complete scans of their communications array, partial data on their propulsion systems, and readings on their hull composition. "Excellent. And they have no idea?" "They were too busy laughing at our primitive technology to notice our actual capabilities." At Earth Command 3 days later, Mina presented her findings to the Emergency Response Council. Engineer Han displayed the results of his analysis on the main screen. "The Alvarians rely heavily on crystalline computing," he explained. "Efficient but vulnerable to specific frequencies we can target. Their ships are powerful but inflexible in design." General Jin leaned forward. "How long until they arrive?" 2 months at most," Mina replied. "Then we have work to do," Director Yoon stated. "Project Hydra needs to be accelerated." Engineer Han nodded. "The prototypes are ready. If the Alvarians are expecting conventional warfare, they're in for a surprise." Mina studied the schematics of the new ships. Where Alvarian vessels were massive and singular, these human ships were designed to fragment and continue fighting when damaged. "They laughed at us," Mina said quietly. Their biggest mistake was showing us exactly what they think of human tactics. As the council disbanded to begin preparations, Admiral Sook placed a hand on Mina's shoulder. History is filled with empires that underestimated their opponents. The Alvarians have never faced humans before, and they have no idea what we're capable of when cornered, Mina replied, watching the simulation of Earth's new adaptive fleet coming online. The Alvarians would still be laughing when they arrived, but not for long. The Alvarian assault began. Without warning, their massive ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, energy signatures flaring like newborn stars against the void. Earth's early warning systems barely had time to sound the alarm before the alien armada began its advance toward Mars. Commander Mina Park stood on the bridge of the Earth defense vessel Thunder, watching the tactical display with growing concern. The first human outposts on Mars had already fallen silent. Hundreds of lives snuffed out in minutes. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding. "Mars Defense Station Alpha is gone," her tactical officer replied. "Beta and Gamma are under heavy assault. The colonial settlements have begun emergency evacuations, but the Alvarians are targeting escape vessels." Mina's hands tightened on the railing. This wasn't war, it was slaughter. "Orders from Command Commander," her communications officer called. "Out. All Earth fleet vessels are to fall back to lunar orbit. We're to protect the evacuation transports." The retreat was orderly but painful. For every civilian ship that escaped, another was destroyed. The lunar colonies, home to over 3 million people, had become the front line far sooner than anyone had expected. On Earth, in the underground facility beneath Mount Fuji, engineer Sun Wu worked with desperate intensity. Around him, teams of scientists and engineers raced to implement the Hydra protocol modifications to the remaining fleet. "The power distribution nodes won't handle the separation sequence," one engineer protested. "We need another month of testing." "We don't have a month," Sun Wu replied, not looking up from his calculations. "We barely have days. Make it work." "Admiral." Jin entered the facility, his uniform dusty from the journey through hastily constructed tunnels. The Alvarians had begun targeting communication centers around the globe. "Sun Wu, give me good news," the Admiral said. Sun Wu gestured to the massive hangar where dozens of ships were being modified. "The first wave will be ready in 18 hours, but they're untested. The neural interfaces are experimental at best." "Will they work?" "In theory. When damaged instead of catastrophic failure, the ships will separate into autonomous fighting units. But we've never done this in actual combat." The Admiral nodded grimly. "Theory will have to do. The lunar colonies are falling. We've lost contact with the Atlantic defense platform. Earth is next." Meanwhile, on the Thunder, Mina received new orders. Her ship was to return to Earth immediately for emergency refit. "What kind of refit can be done in 12 hours? Her executive officer asked. "The kind that might save humanity," Mina replied. Aboard the Alvarian command ship, Supreme Commander Drith reviewed the battle progress with satisfaction. "The humans are retreating on all fronts. Their weapons are as ineffective as we predicted," he reported to the Emperor. "Any unexpected resistance?" the Emperor asked, his many eyes blinking with interest. "None. Their ships are fragile and their tactics are primitive. They attempt to protect their civilian populations rather than focusing on military targets. A weakness we are exploiting." "Excellent. How soon until Earth falls?" 3 days, Emperor. Their largest military installation on their moon is nearly overrun. Once it falls, Earth will be exposed." Back on Earth, Mina stood in awe as she saw her ship transformed. Engineers swarmed over the Thunder, installing new systems and reconfiguring its structure. "Your ship can now split into 7 distinct combat units," Sun Wu explained. "Each section has independent propulsion, weapons, and life support. The neural interface will allow you to control all units simultaneously." "You want me to pilot 7 ships at once?" Mina asked incredulously. "Not alone. Your crew will remain connected through the neural network. You'll think and act as one, but with the tactical advantage of 7 perspectives." As the modifications were completed, 50 ships like the Thunder formed a defensive line between Earth and the approaching Alvarian fleet. It was humanity's last line of defense. This is Admiral Jin to all ships. The Alvarians believe they know how we fight. They believe we are beaten. Today we show them how dangerously wrong they are. Mina settled into the command chair, feeling the neural interface activate. Suddenly she could sense her entire crew, their thoughts aligned with hers in a strange but powerful harmony. "Thunder ready," she reported, her voice echoing with the voices of her crew. As the Alvarian fleet approached, confident in their impending victory, humanity prepared to unveil its answer to overwhelming force: adaptation. The battle near Jupiter's orbit began like all the others. The Alvarian fleet, confident after weeks of easy victories, advanced in perfect formation. Their crystalline ships gleamed in the pale sunlight, weapons primed and shields humming with energy. On the bridge of the Thunder, Commander Mina Park felt the calm before the storm. Through the neural interface, she sensed her crew's determination, mingled with fear. 50 modified ships against 300 Alvarian war vessels. The odds were overwhelming. "All ships maintain formation," Admiral Jin's voice echoed through the neural link. "Remember your training. Wait for them to commit." The Alvarians struck first, just as expected. Brilliant beams of energy lanced across space, striking the human vessels with devastating precision. Several ships erupted in flames. Supreme Commander Drith watched with satisfaction from his flagship. "The humans fight exactly as our simulations predicted. This will be over quickly." But something unexpected happened. As the Alvarian weapons struck the Thunder, instead of exploding into debris, the ship seemed to break apart in a controlled manner. 7 distinct sections separated, each instantly powering up independent engines and weapons systems. "What is happening?" Drith demanded, leaning forward in alarm. Across the battlefield, the same transformation occurred with every damaged human vessel. Where the Alvarians had faced 50 ships, they now confronted hundreds of smaller, faster craft. Through the neural link, Mina directed her ship's fragments with the speed of thought. "Thunder sections, execute pattern Omega." The 7 pieces of her former ship darted in different directions, confusing the Alvarian targeting systems. The alien vessels designed to battle large capital ships struggled to track the smaller, more agile targets. Their targeting systems can't lock onto multiple small signatures simultaneously, Mina realized through the neural network. Exploit the weakness. The human fleet coordinated with unprecedented efficiency. The neural links allowed commanders to share insights instantly across the entire force. When one discovered an Alvarian vulnerability, all ships immediately adjusted their tactics. A fragment of the Thunder slipped past an Alvarian destroyer's shields and delivered a precision strike to its propulsion system. The massive alien vessel began to drift, its crystalline structure cracking under the strain. "Impossible!" Supreme Commander Drith slammed his limb against his command console. "These are not the same primitive vessels we encountered before." "Commander, they've adapted their technology," his science officer reported. "These ships appear designed to multiply when damaged." The battle shifted dramatically. The Alvarian formation, once perfect, dissolved into chaos as commanders tried to counter tactics they had never encountered before. Their rigid battle doctrine had no protocols for an enemy that became more numerous when attacked. Admiral Jin's voice cut through the neural network. "Press the advantage. Target their command ships." Mina directed her 7 fragments in a coordinated assault on an Alvarian cruiser. Like a school of predatory fish, they struck from multiple angles simultaneously, overwhelming the alien vessel's defenses. Across the battlefield, human ships employed the same tactics. For every vessel the Alvarians destroyed, multiple fragments continued fighting. The battle space became a swarm of human craft, darting between the increasingly disorganized alien fleet. After 3 hours of intense combat, Supreme Commander Drith faced an unthinkable reality. "Order a tactical withdrawal," he commanded, his voice tight with rage. "Regroup at Mars orbit." For the first time since the invasion began, The Alvarians retreated. Back on Earth, engineer Sunwoo received the battle data with grim satisfaction. The Hydra protocol worked better than expected, he told the War Council, but the Alvarians will adapt. Then we must stay ahead of them, General Yuna replied. What's next? Sunwoo activated a holographic display showing a new ship design. Phase 2. If they were confused by ships that multiply when damaged, imagine their reaction to ships that learn during combat. Admiral Jin studied the schematics. How soon? 2 weeks to retrofit the fleet. Less if we push the engineering teams. As the Alvarians licked their wounds and revised their strategies, humanity raced to implement the next evolution in their defensive technology. The aliens had learned an important lesson. Humans were most dangerous when cornered. The tide of war had begun to turn. The reclaiming of Mars began at dawn, Earth time. The Red Planet, which had served as the Alvarian forward base for nearly a month, was about to witness humanity's first major offensive. Captain Hyun led the assault force from the bridge of the Dauntless, his mind connected to both his crew and his ship through the neural interface. The new Mark II Hydra vessels incorporated Sunwoo's latest innovation, adaptive learning systems that evolved during combat, identifying patterns in enemy tactics, and developing countermeasures in real time. All ships commence approach, Hyun commanded. Remember, show them nothing new until we're fully engaged. The human fleet moved in conventional formation, appearing to the Alvarian sensors as a standard attack group. Supreme Commander Drith observed their approach with disdain. They've rebuilt their forces faster than expected, he noted to his subordinates. But their formation is predictable. Prepare to engage with standard protocols. The Alvarians launched their first volley, energy weapons cutting through space, toward the human vessels. But instead of taking evasive action, the human ships absorbed the initial hits. The Hydra protocol activated, and the fleet split into hundreds of smaller craft. Phase 1 complete, Hyun announced through the neural network. Now for Phase 2, initiate adaptive systems. Within each vessel fragment, quantum processors began analyzing every aspect of Alvarian combat behavior. The ship's systems started to evolve, making thousands of micro-adjustments to weapons, shields, and tactics. An Alvarian cruiser fired on Hyun's vessel, its beam perfectly calibrated to penetrate human shields, but the shield frequency shifted a microsecond before impact, rendering the attack ineffective. Impossible, the Alvarian weapons officer exclaimed. They've adjusted their shields to our exact frequency. Across the battlefield, the human fleet demonstrated the same uncanny ability to predict and counter Alvarian tactics. When the aliens modified their approach, the human ships adapted faster. They're learning, Drith realized with growing horror. Their ships are evolving during combat. The battle for Mars orbit became a contest of adaptation, but where the Alvarians required command decisions and manual adjustments, the human vessels made changes automatically, at the speed of thought. Hyun directed his ship toward an Alvarian command vessel. His crew's consciousness merged with his own through the neural link. Initiate Ghost Protocol, he ordered. The Dauntless took heavy damage from Alvarian defenses, its power signature flickering and fading. The Alvarians registered it as destroyed and shifted focus to other targets. 3 minutes later, the supposedly destroyed vessel reactivated directly behind the Alvarian flagship, weapons at full power. Their ships played dead, an Alvarian officer shouted in alarm. The Ghost Protocol spread throughout the human fleet. Vessels appeared destroyed only to reactivate moments later in unexpected positions. The Alvarian command structure, built on perfect information and control, began to fracture. Meanwhile, Admiral Mina Park led a separate mission. While the main battle raged, her specialized force approached an Alvarian command carrier from the dark side of Phobos, Mars's larger moon. Boarding teams ready, her tactical officer reported. Stealth systems holding. Proceed with capture operation, Mina ordered. Remember, we need their navigational data intact. The boarding was swift and precise. Teams of human soldiers, their neural implants connecting them in perfect coordination, secured the alien vessel before the crew could destroy sensitive data. As Mars fell back into human hands, Mina's team extracted the prize they sought, complete navigational charts of Alvarian space, including defensive positions around their homeworld. The Alvarian Emperor received the news of Mars's fall with cold fury. "Retreat to the defense perimeter at Venus," he commanded. "Gather all remaining forces." On Earth, Sunwoo reviewed the battle data with satisfaction. "The adaptive systems performed beyond expectations," he told the War Council. "The Alvarians can't keep up with our rate of evolution." Admiral Jin studied the captured navigational data. "We now have what we need for the final phase," he said. "It's time to take this war to their doorstep." The counteroffensive had succeeded. Humanity had proven that adaptability would always triumph over rigid strength. And now, they prepared to bring that lesson to the heart of the Alvarian Empire. The Alvarian homeworld glowed like a jewel in the darkness, its crystalline cities reflecting starlight in dazzling patterns. Around it orbited the largest, defensive, fleet ever assembled in the history of the galaxy. Thousands of warships formed concentric rings of protection, their weapons primed and waiting. Supreme Commander Drith stood on the command deck of the Imperial flagship, his crystalline form rigid with tension. "The humans cannot possibly breach our defenses," he assured the Emperor. "We have gathered every ship in the Empire. These humans have defied our expectations at every turn," the Emperor replied coldly. "I want their species eradicated." The edge of the system, humanity's armada emerged from hyperspace. At its center flew the Resilience, Admiral Mina Park's flagship and the most advanced vessel ever created by human hands. Mina settled into the neural interface chair, feeling her consciousness expand as she connected with both her crew and the ship itself. Sunwoo's final innovation had produced neural integration so complete that the line between human and machine had blurred. "All ships, prepare for Hydra Protocol Final," she commanded, her thoughts flowing through the fleet. "Remember our strategy. Unpredictability is our strength." The human fleet approached the Alvarian defenses in standard formation. The aliens tracked their advance with contempt mixed with caution. "They bring their entire force against us?" Drith scoffed. "Their arrogance will be their downfall." As the human fleet came within range of the outer defensive ring, the Alvarians opened fire. Massive energy beams lanced across space, striking the human vessels with devastating power. But instead of destruction, transformation occurred. Each human ship fractured into dozens of smaller craft, which then further divided into hundreds of drone-sized vessels. Where there had been a fleet of thousands, now there were millions of targets, each operating with both independent intelligence and collective purpose. "Impossible," Drith shouted as his targeting systems overloaded. "No species can coordinate so many vessels simultaneously." Through the neural network, Mina directed the swarm with the speed of thought. The microscopic quantum links between vessels allowed for instant communication and perfect coordination. While each fragment had its own adaptive AI, the human crews provided the creativity and unpredictability that no computer could match. The swarm flowed through gaps in the Alvarian defenses like water through stone. Their tactics shifted constantly, never establishing patterns the aliens could counter. When the Alvarians adapted to one approach, the humans had already moved to another. "Their defenses are based on targeting large ship," Mina communicated through the neural link. "They cannot track our smallest units. Focus on their command nodes." The battle above the Alvarian homeworld became the largest in galactic history. The once perfect defensive rings broke apart as commanders lost coordination. The rigid hierarchy of the Alvarian military became its greatest weakness. After 6 hours of fighting, Mina's flagship approached the Imperial Palace. The swarm had cleared a path through the devastated defenses. "Emperor," Mina broadcast on all frequencies, "your fleet is defeated. Your defenses have failed. Surrender now and spare your people further suffering." In the Imperial throne room, the Emperor faced the truth. His invincible armada lay in ruins. The species he had dismissed as primitive had outthought and outfought the greatest empire in the galaxy. "This cannot be," he whispered. 3 days later, Commander Drith stood before Admiral Park to surrender his empire. His crystalline form seemed dimmer now, the light within fading with defeat. How? He asked simply. How could your primitive species defeat us? Mina looked at him with neither hatred nor triumph. You studied our weapons, but never our history. Humans have always been at our most dangerous when underestimated. Your greatest mistake was laughing at us. As news of the Alvarian defeat spread across the galaxy, other alien civilizations began frantically revising their assessments of Earth. The species they had dismissed had defeated the undefeatable through adaptation and innovation. Humanity had announced its arrival on the galactic stage not with words, but with victory.